Today, I'm going to talk about the firstly elasticity of substitution as we are looking at, and then technical progress, and finally return to scale with a variety of production function, right? So let me start with this slide first for today. So elasticity of substitution in Korean, 대체 탄력도 아니면 대체 탄력성. 저도 이제 미시를 대략 10년 가르쳐 오는데 참 와닿지 않는 개념인 것 같아요. For this elasticity of substitution, we define this one measures, by the way, we denote this one by sigma. And it measures how the capital labor ratio changes relative to the change in MRTS. Right? By the way, MRS, we set it equal to PX over PY, price ratio. For this MRTS, what are you going to looking at like a budget line? We think this one, W times L, which correspond to Px times X plus R times K will be cost, like it was income for consumers' budget constraint, right? So for this MRTS, like we did, we had the price ratio. We can have Px correspond to price of labor, Py correspond to price of capital, which is R. So MRTS, basically, we're going to set that equal to price ratio of two input, labor and capital, right? Now let's get back to here. Measures how sensitive how sensitive capital labor ratio, right? That's dependent variable. Independent variable, I can say this is MRTS, right? So this is kind of elasticity, but it define every 1 unit of change in MRTS, how does capital labor ratio changes? And as I said, elasticity, we put it the one inverse way. This one is there, right? Or I could say like this one. This is a percentage change in capital labor ratio, right? What about this one? This is reciprocal or inverse of percent change in MRTS, right? So basically, every time MRTS make a small change, how the response of capital and labor ratio. And as I said, elasticity concept, every percentage change in capital labor ratio, what percentage change happen for this MRTS, right? And that one is written is right here. So let me clear it out. So this one once again, right? So for weak fraction, we can say this is percentage change in MRTS, right? By the way, let me go over this one. We have 2 points. At 2 point for one isocont, this is 1 million unit, right? We can derive two different tangency, right? Each tangency correspond MRTS, right? MRTS at A, we define like 4. MRTS at B, we define as 1, the value for that, right? And for 1% change in MRTS, how many percentage change in capital labor ratio occurs? And measuring that, we denote it by sigma, which is called elasticity of substitution. So let's understand it through the example. For point A, the coordinate will be 5.20. For B, coordinate 10, 10, right? So let's do that. First, let's derive percentage change in MLTS. For A, right, MLTS is defined as 4. For B, defined as 1. So MLTS, let's think about change happens from A to B, right? So this change in MLTS, how much? It's like MLTS A is 4, MLTS B is 1. So change in MLTS is -3. Does it make sense? No, that should not be. A to B. I think it should be. If we do that way, this one actually might be this way. It works from B to A, right? MLTS B was 1. It changed to A, then the change should be -3. So here, let me do the other way. So as I said earlier, we think about change from A to B, right? At A was 4 MLTS. At B, it is 1. So change in MLTS, right? Change in MLTS, it depends upon, right? So MLTS new one minus MLTS old one 4 1. All right, this -3 should be my way from change A to B, right? Then what about this one? This one will be -3 over 4. Original MLTS was 4, right? Now what about this one? Capital label ratio at point A. Imagine triangle. The length is 5, height is 20, right? So originally it was 20 over 5. It is 4. What about at the new point, which is B? This is 10, 10. So should be 1, right? What about change in this one? So starting from 4, right? It reaches 1. So minus 1 once again. So this one will be -3. This one is -3. And for this one is 4. What about original capital label ratio was 4, right? Then the way I wrote is -3 over 4, right? That's from here divided by the same 3/4. The same thing means the value will become 1. So here elastic substitution becomes 1, right? And what does elasticity of substitution means? That's another question. It means the shape of isocone or the degree of substitutability between the two input here in this case, right? And for this one, we derive elasticity of substitution is 1. It's like this one. We have several different indifference curve, and here isocone, right? We could have this one. This is mean type, like mean L, K. What about this one? This is AL plus BK equal isocone, like budget one. For this one, elasticity of substitution sigma becomes infinity. And for this one, Leontief, this is 0 and this is 1. And some mutants between 1 and 0, it has some value greater than 1. Let's say that's 5, right? So this elasticity of substitution, which is denoted by sigma, right? It measures the shape of isocone or the degree of substitutability of input. let's think about this one. Infinity. Substitutability between two input, which is L and K, become infinite. What about here? Substitutability between L and K becomes 0. I think I mentioned about the example of pairs of shoes. Right-hand shoes cannot replace left-hand shoes at all. In that case, substitutability or elasticity of substitution becomes 0. What about L and K? Think about the budget one, right? Or it's not a budget. It's like your indifference curve. If we have this kind of indifference curve, right? Let's say this is budget line, and your indifference curve is this one, right? You only consume Y, right? But once the price ratio changes a little bit like this one, you jump to this one. You only consume X product, right? For that case, elastic substitution of substitutability between L and K become infinite, right? Let me talk in Korean for supplementary explanation. Less than 1 minute. 자, 대체 탄력성이라는 게 뭐냐면 여기 나와 있는 두 축에 대한 사람들의 그 대체가 가능하냐를 묻는 거예요. 그래서 용어는 사실 이렇게 되어 있는 건데 어떤 거냐면 다 좀 깨끗이 합시다. 여기는 대체 탄력성이 무한대고 여기는 0이잖아요. 제가 그 신발을 얘기를 할 때 오른쪽 신발이 왼쪽 슈즈를 대체할 수 없잖아. 다 하나하나 있어야 우리가 신발을 신고 다닐 수 있거든. 그게 대체 탄력성이야. 그렇겠죠? 그래서 오른쪽 신발이 왼쪽을 대체하는 정도가 제로야. 이거는 굉장히 대체 탄력성이 높아. 어떤 의미냐면 여러분이 예산선이 이렇게 돼 있을 때 인디퍼런트 커브가 이렇다면 둘 다 기울기 차인데 여러분은 뭐야? 요런 인디퍼런트 커브일 때 요런 예산선을 택할 수도 있고 사실은 근데 여기 이제 비용 극소화지. 이 중에서 여러분 가능한 것 중에 가장 높은 인디퍼런스 커브를 택했잖아. 그래서 다 뭐해? Y만 여러분이 소비를 했었지. 그런데 XY 가격비가 좀 변해. 이렇게 변했다고 합시다. 아까보다 뭐가 비싸진 거예요? 아까보다 Y가 비싸진 거야. 이거에 비해서 얘는 뭐가 비싸? X가 비싼 거지. 왜? PX, PY가 절대값이니까 기울기가. 요거는 PX가 올라간 거고 요건 뭐야? PY가 올라간 거지. 자, PX가 비싸지니까 여러분 PX 써야 안 써요? 안 쓰고 Y만 쓰죠. PY가 비싸지니까 여러분 어떻게 해요? X 안 쓰고 Y만 쓰죠. 즉 여러분 X건 Y건 별 상관이 없어. 이 유틸리티 레벨을 디라이브 하는 데는. 디미니싱 MRS도 없어. 디미니싱 MRS의 특징이 뭐야? X를 많이 가지면 가질수록 X로부터 나오는 만족도가 떨어지는 거지. 그건 뭐래? 여기 있는 MRS로 하잖아. MRS의 절대값이 뭐라고? X에 대해서 내가 얼마나 중요시 느끼는 걸 Y로 나타내는 걸 이제 적어졌잖아. 아까는 굉장히 많잖아요. 삼각형 그려서 기울기를 한번 생각해보면 요만큼의 X를 이렇게 Y를 밸류 줬는데 이번엔 이만큼의 X라도 Y 밸류가 어떻게 돼? 거의 없지. 자, 디미니싱 MRS 때문에 여러분은 X, Y 둘 다 소비하려고 그러고 자, 요런 인디퍼런스 컵은 디미니싱 MRS가 있어요? 없어요? 없어요. 그런 경우가 퍼펙트 서브스티튜션이 가능한 것들이에요. 자, 그런 의미이고 다시 좀 깨끗이 하고 Let me move on to the last sentence, right? For this definition, measuring the percentage change in capital labor ratio. This is percent change in capital labor ratio for every 1% change in MRTS of labor for capita along an isoquant. Along an isoquant. Right? That's this one. So now let's move on to the next slide. So now here I'm going to talk about technological progress. Right? First definition about it. Technological progress shift the production function by allowing the firm to achieve more output from a given set or given combination of input. The same output or with fewer input, right? And versus, not versus. This technological progress happen in three different ways. The key one is neutral way. The other one, labor saving, or the last one, capital saving. Neutral technological progress shift the isocont curve inward. And as well as in moving into inward, it leaves the MRTS doesn't change, unchanged, along any lay from the origin. Now, let's think about it more in depth by moving on to the next slide. So here, technological progress is not easy concept. It is a very hard one, right? But in theory or in microeconomic textbook, we can pretty simply define it. We can define it, right? Let's say this is original our MRTS. This is ante, meaning before the progress happens. After the progress happens, for this same amount of output, for the same amount of output, this is the same 100. Our isoquant shift inward, like demand shift outward or inward. As we shifting this isoquant curve, we already define technological progress. And for this neutral, for any lay from the origin, right, the tangent line on this array, lay, right, doesn't change. That's neutral, right? Like this one. We can think about another lay. For this one, we can imagine another tangent. This tangent line has the same slope. That's neutral technological progress. By the way, you may raise a question, why it fit for technological progress? Let me explain about that. Before the technological progress, we say to produce 100 units of output, we need this amount of labor and this amount of capital. But as our technology improved, we need a smaller amount of labor and smaller amount of capital. That fits for progress in technology, right? But the funny thing or interesting, we can just express that progress just shifting isoquant inward. So after the progress, I may relabel this is for 200 unit of output, right? And further, key thing for the neutral, MRTS remains the same. Then you might ask to yourself, wow, then is there technological process MRTS changes? Yes, it is. And how? We will see it in detail in the next slide. Now, I want to talk about labor-saving technological progress, right? It will become different from neutral technological progress, right? 100 unit of output before is the same, and another 100 output after the change, which is post, the same. But as you can see, at the same lay from the origin, the tangency and the absolute value of the tangency becomes different, right? And let's derive that one like this one. This is Q1, and let's say this is Q2. So Q1, our isoquant was this one. Q2, our new isoquant was this one. Right? So produce like 100 unit. We can put specific value for this one. Might be I want to make this is 1/5 L plus 3K become one piece. Maybe I can give it like this is 15 or something like 1/100 unit for K, and this is 2/100 unit of L. That will become 1/5. Product with 500 will become 100, right? And here, if we plug the same number, this is 2, this is 1, right? 100 will erase this one. So this one gonna be 1, this one gonna be 10, this one gonna be 11. What about it'll become this one, 110. It's not perfectly matched for this one, but just for example, right? For the same unit of input, output amount now become much greater. That's the point. I want to show it to you that, right? This is 11, 10, right? Small increase. But anyway, let's understand this one fit for this one is fit for that one. And derive the MRTS from the Q1, isoquant Q1, right? MRTS, as I said, MPL over MPK. What about MPL is here? 500. What's the MPK? Like another 500 times 3. So they become 1/3, right? So this one. What about here? Here will be MPL will be the same 500, right? But what about MPK? Will be 10,000. So we can erase these two, and 1/100 it'll become 120, right? For the same L and K, right? We can imagine triangle, and these two have the same shape. Or I can say the same angle and same the ratio between this side, right? So the key thing, L and K, the ratio are the same, right? It means it is along the same lay. But what about the MRTS at this point? Was 1/3. Now it become 1/20th. So MRTS becomes smaller than before. What's the main reason? MPL doesn't change, but MPK here like 1,500, here become 10,000. MPK increase a lot. You know, MPL is the same, but MPK increased. That's fit for technological progress. Marginal productivity of capital alone, even though alone, it increased. So, between L and K, which one do you want to use more? MPK increased a lot, right? So, for versus labor, capital productivity increase, which ingredient do you prefer to use more? You prefer to use capital relative to labor, right? So you will use capital more. In the English phrase, you're gonna save labor, right? Now here, let me speak in Korean. 자, 이게 영어의 save라는 게 굉장히 참 어려워요. 저축이 뭐죠? 저축이 세이빙이죠. 자, 기독교를 믿거나 하는 사람한테 구세주가 뭐예요? 세이버입니다. 세이버. 그 다음에 나를 좀 살려주세요를 뭐라고 해? save me라고 그래요. 자, 레이버를 살려주세요를 어떻게 해? save labor죠. 그래서 살려주는 건 뭐야? 나를 더 쓰는 거야? 덜 쓰는 거야? 덜 쓰는 거예요. 그 말은 L하고 K 둘을 써서 생산해야 되는 사람이 L을 덜 쓰면 뭘 더 써야 돼? 캐피탈 더 써야 돼. 그래서 이걸 다른 어떤 책은 캐피탈 인텐시브라고 해요. 더 인텐시브하게 사용하는 capital intensive technological progress라고 그러고 그 이유가 지금 말한 게 뭐예요? MPK가 커졌죠. 캐피털의 marginal productivity가 increase 하니까 increase한 캐피털을 더 쓰고 그걸 영어에서는 재밌게도 capital intensive technological progress는 우리한테 와닿을 텐데 요걸 요렇게 안 쓰고 labor saving이라고 그래. 뒷장에서 뭐가 나오냐면 capital saving이 와. 그럼 여기서 뭐겠어? labor intensive고 그때는 누가 더 productivity가 올랐어요? 캐피탈보다 레이버가 더 올랐겠지. 자, 한국 학생한테 한국말이 이게 더 와닿을 것 같아서 그랬고. 자, let's get back to the lecture. Let me clear all the writing I made there. So here, technological progress happens in the way of saving labor because MPK alone increase a lot. As MPK alone increase a lot, for the MRTS, right, MPL is the same. Then this MRTS become less. And this should be positive, meaning become more flatter than before after shifting inward. Compare this one in the previous slide. I'm sorry. I want to go back to, that's what I want, right? In the previous slide, right, shifting inward, after shifting, right, the slope of tangent line doesn't change. But here, slope of tangent line gets flatter for the labor saving. Then what about capital saving? Slope of tangent line become stiffer than before. Right? But here, let's focus on the explanation about labor saving technological progress. So labor saving technological progress happens when MPK increases a lot and result in fall in the MRTS along any lay from the origin. As well as this one, what about there? There, you should have this one, right? Right, this one gets, it doesn't show so distinctively, but anyway, it should become much flatter. What about here? This one. What about there? Like this one. Much flatter than before, right? At the same input ratio. Same input ratio driven from delay. Capital labor ratio. This is one triangle, another triangle. Capital labor ratio should be the same. This is a right triangle with the same slope, right? Now let me read the second one. Once labor-saving technological progress takes place with constant input price, meaning price ratio between labor and capital doesn't change, right? Let's say originally we picked this one at the optimal production combination between L and K because W and L ratio was given this way, and we want to set that equal to MRS with T, MRTS, right? That's how we derived optimal point at this tangency, right? Now this isocone shift in, but with this kind of tilted change happens. But if the price ratio between two input doesn't change, the new tangent should not be here, right? It is not tangent, it is cross across with each other. Will be new tangents should be something where more left hand side from this section, right? Then what happened? Previously our capital labor ratio was this one, but now we have to think about new triangle, meaning new capital labor ratio. Labor amount shrinks by this one. Capital, the amount increased by this one more, right? So we become more capital intensive than before. Another way to describe that, we're gonna save labor more for the same amount of output after the change. Compare before the change. Right. So once the labor saving technological progress takes place with constant input price ratio, then the input choice of K to L relative to L increase under cost minimization. Cost minimization is nothing more than taking isoquant and we're gonna find the tangency at a given W and R ratio, right? Instead of cut across, right? Intersection, these 2 points. Rather than these two, we wanna find the tangency without intersection. That's cost minimization, and that's kind of duality compared to maximizing utility. Now let me move to the next slide. Now the other case. Here, technological progress happens in the way of saving capital. So, in other words, labor intensive. We want to use labor more. Why? Because this MPL relative to MPK, that increases further, right? So, along the same ray from the origin, right, the slope of a tangent line gets steeper, right? This one is the same, this one increases. Then MRTS, the value become greater than before. It's this one, right? So technological press, we're gonna shift isoquant for the same amount after the change, and also we wanna tilt the shape according to the way the MPL changes. This, marginal product. Here, particularly, progress focus on, intensively happened on marginal productive labor, right? So capital saving, technological progress, I describe it, the background of that is increase in MPL, result in a rise in MRTS along any way from the origin, right? And as MPL increased for the previous W and R ratio, which one we gonna find tangency? Now this one, lower down there. In the previous slide, upper here, now lower down. So originally our capital labor ratio was this one, capital labor ratio. Now the new one is this one, right? So we gonna save capital, right? And we gonna use relative to capital more amount of labor, right? That's about capital saving, technological progress. Now it's time to talk about return to scale. Take time, sorry. Returns to scale, right? What is this one? So we take the acronym return to scale, RTS. The formula for this one, percentage change in output quantity relative to percent change in all input. We define that as a return to scale. So as we make the change, like all input increase like 1% point, what's the response in output increase? How many percentage change in output happen? That's RTS. So how much will the output increase when all input increase by a particular amount? And we can classify this RTS in 3 cases. A 1% increase in all input, if that results in a greater than 1% increase in output, then the production function shows return scale, but we're gonna prefix, or another word, put in front of RTS, increasing return to scale. Increasing return to scale, right? The other case, 1% increase in all input result in, that's the other case. The other case result in less than 1% increase in output. We call that decreasing return to scale. In between, the marginal point is like this one. Every 1% increase in input matched with exactly 1% increase in output. Then we call constant return to scale, right? The same ratio. So here, for original isocon, we put 1 unit of labor, 1 unit of capital, and we want to double both sides, right? Or same percent increase in all input, right? If we matched up Q1, that's a new one, if we become exactly double 2 times Q0, then this one will be classified constant return to scale. What about 3Q? We doubled the input, but the output increased 3 times more than before. Then that's gonna be increasing return to scale. When you double the input, if the output increases less than that, then we call this is decreasing return to scale. Maybe I can say 1.5 Q0 for new Q1. That's a return to scale, right? Now let me move on to the next slide. We're gonna further investigate on this return to scale. That's what I'm expecting, right? Return to scale. So here we'll think about that with Cobb-Douglas. Did I mention this is Cobb-Douglas? I guess it might have another B, I'm not sure. You need to check that in my lecture notes. So that's the compositor or writer of this function, right? And this is this one. Right. Let's increase all input by lambda, right? So I have, originally I plug K and L. Now I want to double it, 2L, 2K. And lambda here become then the value 2. So the same lambda is here. So once I double the input, if the output increase exactly the same ratio, then we call that constant return to scale. By the way, we omit the T. A lot of textbook omit the T. So CRTS instead of CRTS, they use CRLS. DRTS, instead of that, they use DRLS. IRTS, instead of IRTS, they use IRS. Constant return to scale. Increasing return to scale, right? Now let's check that. So we plug, let's say 2L and 2K. Now let's take out this constant number. So it will become 2 alpha and there 2 beta. And we kept the remainder here, right? So we have these two. For the same two, we're going to add up the power term 2 alpha plus beta, right? And if the alpha plus beta becomes 1, right? And this one will fit for Q1, original one. And after we doubling this is Q2, right? This one. So if alpha plus beta becomes 1, Q2 will become 2 times Q1. And we double the all input. Output become, the new one become the double of original one. That's before constant return to scale. If the condition alpha plus beta, the summation of power term for ingredient, if it become 1, then for this Cobb-Douglas function, return scale classify constant return to scale, right? What about the other case? We can think about the other case too. For that one, let me clear it out. For this one, the mathematic, or the math I did is like this one. Alpha, for lambda term, this one gonna be this way, right? And what I'm finding out, this is a long one. You can erase these two, right? And this one whole become Q1. And this term is here, right? So let's say if alpha plus beta become less than 1, then what will happen? This is decreasing return to scale. Let's put 2 for lambda. So 2 to the 1 is 2, but 2 to the half will become less than 2. right? This square root on 2. This is 1.4, right? So even after we doubling the input, the output increase, right, as a result, but less than 2 times. That's before decrease in return to sale. What about alpha and beta summation of those two become like 2? 2 is greater than 1 here. Then this one, 2 to the 2 become 4. So the new one become 4 times bigger than previous one. That's increase in return to scale. Now what about this one? This is a linear isoquant. What about the sigma value for this one? We learned this is infinite. What's the return to scale of this one? Let's double the labor, 2L, double the capital, right? Then we can bring it out to fold this entire equation, 2 times 500L, 400K. And this is original Q. So new Q will become 2 of Q because we doubled all input. So this one fit for constant return to scale, right? So actually, depending upon the function type, doubling input sometimes lead to constant return scale, other times lead to DRS. The other times it may lead to IRS. The marginal product of a single factor may diminish while the return scale do not. Does it make sense? Now think about this one. What about this one? What's the value of alpha for labor? Half. What's the value for beta for K term? It's another half. So summing over alpha and beta becomes 1. So should it be constant return scale? But what about marginal product of labor? Let's do that. So we want to differentiate this one with respect to L, right? If we do that, this one gonna be A K root to L with 2, right? What's the property of marginal product of labor? As you increase labor, think about isoquant. As you increase labor, you have to decrease K, right? As you increase L, this one become greater, and at the same time, you have to decrease this one. Then whole value will diminish. So marginal product of a single factor labor may diminish, but the return to scale do not. Does it make sense? For this one, when I increase L, I have to decrease K. But for this return to scale, I have to increase L and K at the same time, at the same ratio. That's the difference. So diminishing marginal productivity can go along with constant return scale production technology. You have to bear in mind about that, right? What about? Okay. So I think for today, I'd better stop here. And let me explain for this linear production function, fixed production function, Cobb-Douglas production function in the next time. So let me finish today's lecture here.